you to see this. I want you to see this. This is great alignment. You just don't see this anymore. I mean...
Hey, thanks for coming by and checking out Pete's Snakebite Kit again. If you haven't been here before, what this is about is building a Cobra, specifically my Hurricane Motorsports Cobra. Been thinking about doing this for decades, been working on it for more than a year, and it's rolling now and it's time for alignment. That's why it's Pete's Snakebite Kit and Alignment Shop. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to get stuff close on the alignment today. That's all I'm really going to try and do. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Because I'm not trying to get my Cobra realigned. I'm trying to get it aligned. The things that I'm aligning were in boxes when it got here. And just getting things roughed into place is a little bit of a chore. I'll explain. I'm going to have to get a little bit more of adjustment out of the upper A-arm. But let's go over all those details and see what we're talking about. Hey, in my career and my hobbies as hot rodder, street racer, a technician, I have been really fortunate. I've worked with some very sharp people that I've learned a lot from. One of the guys I got to work with and learn from is Jay Steele at Taylor Engines in Southern California. Jay was not your average guy. He was very intelligent. He owned Taylor Engines for, I don't know how long. We lost him 15 years ago or so. He taught me so much when I was a kid. Started going to him doing a Volkswagen engine when I was in high school, and then kind of progressed to real cars from there. But one of the things he taught me was it's got to be consistent. For instance, if you want to set the plugs at 34 or 39 to 40, that's not as critical as every single one of those at the exact same gap. He showed me 3 or 4 different ways to adjust valves. They all work. What's important is that every valve is adjusted just like the valve next to it, and so on and so on, and you get the idea. I'm going to try and apply that to this alignment we're going to do. I don't have any rocket science computer-controlled alignment rack, but I'll bet you we get it consistent right to left, and I'll bet you I can make the car go straight, and I'll bet you I can get the steering wheel straight. And we started off with a box full of parts. We didn't start off with a car that was aligned and running and going straight and trying to adjust it. There's a heap of parts when we started. So let's take a look. All right, so here's my impressive set of tools that's gonna get the Cobra aligned. You probably remember this one. Tires come off using a hammer. Love that. I'm gonna use a digital angle meter I got. Big $30 tool off of Amazon. Gonna use a short level to calibrate it. What else we got here? Oh, blue tape and a marker. You probably know what we're gonna use that for. That's gonna go with the tape measure. We got a long level here. We're going to use that. We're going to use this to tie that to something. I bet you don't know what I'm going to use this one for. This is a special tool. I would not be able to do this alignment without. If you know the answer, don't shout it out so the whole class hears. I want to show you later. So here's a digital angle meter, Klein brand. I got this off of Amazon. I think it was $29.95. What I do is I put the level here, get a level in the window there. Then I can set this here. I can push the, hey, calibrate. Then that's calibrated. I do that regularly so I know I'm working with a real zero. Okay, let's talk about some alignment basic stuff, all right? You hear these terms all the time. You probably know what they are. Let me just buzz through them. So this one's caster. Think of this as here's a top ball joint, here's a bottom ball joint. There's an imaginary line that's going through that in relationship to being level, right? It's 90 degrees-ish. So that would be zero caster. Leaning backward would be positive. So this is the arrow of the car. So leaning backward would be positive. That's what makes a car track better. Because as you lean it back that way, the weight of the car is pulling the tire forward, if that makes sense. Generally, that makes the car a little harder to steer, so there's a trade-off of making it track better and making the tension on the steering a little bit higher. I personally like more caster in a car. I don't mind the tougher steering. The Cobra's obviously a very light car, so I don't think that'll be an issue. I've mentioned before I had a 70 Boss 302. I did a lot of road racing kind of things with it, and it had a lot of caster in it, and I really liked how it handled. I mean, I could come out of a corner and get the car sideways and just melt the back tires. I literally could let go of it, stay in the throttle and it would just drive itself out. It made it very fun and easy to drive. So not sure where I'll end up on caster on that, probably 6, 7, 8 degrees. It's at over 10 right now, and it's really not tough to drive at all. So then there's camber. So camber, that is looking at the front of the tire. Is it tilted in towards the car, or is it tilted out towards the car? So on the camber, that's going to be negative where it's tilted in. That's normally what some cars have. They're usually 0 to a little bit of a degree in. If you see a real serious road race car, it's tilted way in, and they're going to chew up the inside edge of the tires, but they're willing to give that up for traction around corners. And then the toe, is the tire pointing straight ahead or in relationship to the other one. So if you look down at your shoes, it's a real good example. Are you toed in or toed out? I think four-wheel drive vehicles a lot of times are about 0. Most cars are just barely in 30 seconds or however it ends up. So for different kinds of racing or driving, things are done differently. So, in drag racing, the car's going very straight and everything is about how little amount of roll resistance are you going to have and how straight will the car go. They're going to want a ton of caster, so the car's going very straight. They're going to want 0 camber so that it's not doing any dragging down the road. It's as low rolling resistance as possible. My friend Mike, with his son's race cars, set up a bunch of turn left only things in dirt and in asphalt and set some world records. They do all kinds of weird stuff because they're only turning left. So things are a little bit different. What I'm going to be doing with this, obviously my Cobra is going to be a street car. It will go around corners well. I'm going to try that out a few times. I may have some track days. I probably will take it to the drag strip, or at least put a draggy on it and see what kind of ET in mile an hour it's going to run and so on. So mine will be a compromise. There's a number of things. So I'm going to play with these. I got it close today. Let's look at the settings I've got and where I've gotten it to, and I'll explain where I'm going to go from there. Okay, so now we go from the whiteboard to real life. So bottom ball joint here, top ball joint here, and there's an imaginary line between them. If we were to look at that line this way, as we tilt it back, the car will track better. That would be positive caster. Now, just by chance, or maybe design, on this Mustang 2 spindle, this is machined nice and smooth and flat. I think that this is on that plane, that line between those two. But we know that it is machined and straight and it's square to something. So, like adjusting the valves, these may not be exactly on that plane, but I'm going to use that for my reference point, and I'm going to match the caster on this side exactly to the caster on that side. Because our little magnetic guy can stick right there, right, and then we can get a reading off of them. So that's how we'll check and set the caster on here. Now we're going to check the camber, and the camber is the angle, like I said, that the tire is tilted in or out. And we're measuring off the rotor. I have the wheel turned, of course, for visibility. I would obviously be checking this when the tires are straight. But this is setting or checking that angle. If this read 90 degrees, that would be straight up and down, right? And then 2 degrees that way would be 88, 2 degrees that way would be 88 the other direction. So that's how we're going to read camber, and I think that's going to be accurate. And of course I've got it on a jack stand. I don't have it ride height with tires on it. I'm doing that for demonstration. But I can get this on the back of the rotor when I have the car on the ground, and I can get this reading for the caster while the car's on the ground and sneak it up and look at it that way. I think that's going to work. Okay, so I dropped the suspension down here so we can see this upper control arm a little bit. This is the adjustment. I can adjust how far the tire is away from the frame by adjusting those hind ends there. But the track width is the width I want it, and it's even right to left in comparison to the body. So we're good there. So the adjustments I'm going to make are here. When I shorten this one, this will pull this ball joint back and in. This one obviously is going the other way. So I'm out of adjustment here. I've got these as short as they'll go, and I'm at about 0 here as far as the camber. So I'm just gonna take these adjusters off and shorten them a little bit. They're threaded in here quite a ways. So I'm just gonna shorten them a little bit. That'll give me the adjustment that I need. So I got it pretty close today. I'll show you the numbers on the board, and I've driven it this way, and it's okay. It's not where I want it, but it does go straight and whatnot. So here's where the long level comes into play. I'm not using it for a level at all. I'm using it for a straight edge. So I'm running this parallel off of the rotor by clamping it on there. And then marking a line here where that hits. I did the same thing here in back, so I can measure between these lines, right to left, the toe. Is the toe straight forward compared to each other, or is it toed in, or is it toed out? But I still haven't told you what this tool's for. I'll give you the part number, see if it gives you a hint. It's a Snap-on CJ119B, like boy. Now I've already used the level and straight edge on this side. These are the lines that are straight ahead and straight behind the rotor. Again, trying to get the toe at 0 and get the steering wheel straight. So now we've got our lines set up in the front and the back. We'll measure the distance between them, and you can see we've got a 53 1/4 on that side. That's actually the same measurement I've got in the front, side to side. So that's telling us the toe's at 0. In other words, both tires are pointing straight ahead. I do have the steering wheel straight, and I've driven it, and I know I've got this straight. Now, if you get the toe at 0 and the car goes straight and the steering wheel's there, that's telling us the tires are pointed that way and you're going this way to compensate. So you want to move both of them that way to bring the steering wheel back to center. I chased that a little bit until I got that thing straight. I got this at toe at 0, and now we can just bring it in. I think I'm going to go about 1/4 inch total. If you're still wondering about the Snap-on special tool, this might be a little bit of a disappointment. Here's what we're actually using it for. So here's our numbers. I measured it on the jack stands and then on the floor just to see what kind of difference it was. I did have the weight of the car on the A-arms because the jack stand was right out at the end, so it's close. There's not a lot of difference, but I can adjust it from the floor and measure it while it's on the floor. It's just easier for demonstration. And also I had to make a lot of big swing adjustments at the beginning, so I was glad I had the tire off. But on the right, on the camber, it's at 90 degrees, so that's 0. And like I was showing you, I'm out of adjustment there. I'm at 89.3, so I've got 7/10 of a degree of camber. So I want to have some adjustment there. I don't think it's going to take a whole lot. On the caster, I've got 79, so 90 would be 0. So I've got just over 10 degrees there, almost 11 degrees there. The car's actually at 1.8 degrees, so I'm going to call that about 8. So that's really there. The measurement there that I actually have is 55. It's 53 when I roughed it out there, but I had the front and back at 55 when I got the steering wheel straight and everything. So that's what it was. I didn't have a way to set the toe. I'm going to need to do that with a tape measure and another person because my Snap-on tool won't work for that. But you can see the numbers on the floor and on the jacks were pretty close, but I can get under the car and I can see the measurements with it at right height and everything. So that nice little cheap little tool has actually worked out pretty good. That's my low buck alignment thing. I think it's going to work. I'll know as the tires wear, but I think they're going to wear just fine. What do you think? Okay, so there we have the Pete Snakebite Kit Alignment Shop Special. I hope that makes sense to you how I'm aligning it. Hey, if I'm missing something on what I'm thinking on this alignment deal, send me a note on there. I'd love to learn some more about this. I think I've got it close. Over the years, I've done a lot of alignments without alignment machines, and it's usually worked out pretty well. You can do this stuff. If you're building one of these at home, if you're working on another car, you see it's not complicated. It's a matter of thinking about what the measurements do, why they're there, figuring out a way to measure it. It's not rocket science. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you have a good day. We'll see you on the next one.